Welcome back to the Commercial Real Estate Show. I'm Michael Bull. Thanks for being with us. Today we're talking about retail and retail real estate. We have a treat for you now. We're going to talk to Jesse Tron via Skype. He is a spokesman for ICSC, International Council of Shopping Centers. Jesse, thanks for being with us.
Thanks so much for having me. Always a pleasure to be on with you.
Jesse, we talked to you before the holiday season, and you had some ideas of what might happen. Well, what really did happen? You know, the holiday season is obviously a very big time for retailers, right? How did they perform?
Yeah, I think things are still shaking out a bit. Obviously, we did see the December numbers come in from the Commerce Department. That was advanced. Remember, so there is the opportunity for those numbers to be revised. And we saw some bifurcation really in retail. There was some split. There were some areas of certainly considerable strength, and there were some areas that were probably weakened a little bit by some of the other larger factors that played in that maybe were not anticipated, like weather, for instance.
Yeah. Well, who were some of the winners? Some of the retailers or some of the product types?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you saw considerable strength again in the home furnishings category and the home supplies category. A lot of people are taking up that DIY mantle and really going out there and improving their homes. They're seeing more value in their home prices, which makes them feel like they can put more money back in and reinvest in those homes when they see those higher home values that we didn't see 5, 6, 7 years ago. Now we're really seeing some value there. So those retailers are really benefiting from that trend and people wanting to extend the value definitely of their home. Another big one, which shouldn't come as too much of a shock during this time of year, the sporting good and toy category. Again, we don't have the breakout yet. That's all one category right now for the advanced numbers, but that sector did very, very well, and it was really led by toys. And obviously during the holidays, toys do incredibly well. So while we maybe didn't see the numbers that we would ultimately love to see, the really high numbers, I still think that it was a pretty solid holiday season. And I think one thing to really note is that we saw a considerable uptick in the amount of gift cards this year. 20% of consumers' expenditures was in the form of gift cards. And why is that important? Because actually most retailers don't redeem that value, don't report that value until the consumer actually comes in and redeems it. And most consumers are redeeming those gift cards in January, but also in February. 43% of people said they're going to redeem their gift cards in February or later. So those numbers, those sales numbers for gift cards, don't even get recognized in the traditional November, December holiday period. So that's a big chunk of change that's still sitting out there technically on the sidelines of retailers' books that they have not accounted for.
20%?
20% of holiday spending,
wow.
Of holiday gift spending, 20% was in the form of a gift card. So you think about it, if somebody bought you a $100 gift card, the retailer doesn't actually realize that gain on their books from an accounting practice and what gets reported in the numbers until you go into the store and actually buy $100 worth of product. Or say you only buy 50, they only account for 50, and they have up to a year before they actually go and have to report that. So that's actually something, there is some underlying strength that has yet to be considered or reported. And it's actually a trend that we've noticed over the past several holiday seasons. And it's actually why you're seeing January and February rise in terms of the share of the total calendar, in terms of they're still lower volume months compared to November and December, but the share, they're gaining share, because of those gift card expenditures.
Well, you can see how that could really skew the numbers, and I think it's always interesting when somebody gives me a gift card. So you're telling me where I have to shop. Okay, thanks a lot. But also, I guess gift cards are a great profit area for these retailers, right? I guess some of the times they're not totally redeemed, right?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly is a win for retailers, and I would say even more so than the better thing for retailers about gift cards. Not the part where the consumer doesn't actually redeem it. It's where they come into the store and spend more than the value of the gift card, and that happens more often than not. You get a $50 gift card. Well, the item you really want is $75. But now you're more willing to buy it because you only have to spend $25 out of your own pocket, and you're getting the $75 value. So that is actually what you see quite a bit of. And for retailers, that's an absolute boon because that's an incremental sale that they're getting that they wouldn't have gotten necessarily before. So it makes a lot of sense for them, and it's good for the consumer. And I think that what you're really seeing, my theory on this, the reason that there's this uptick in gift cards, and it helps when we're in better
I want to hear more about this. We got to take a short break. We'll be right back with Jesse Tron with ICSC. This is the Commercial Real Estate Show. The Commercial Real Estate Show is brought to you in part by your friends at Bull Realty. When your business requires proven performance, visit bullrealty.com or call 800-408-BULL. Welcome back to the Commercial Real Estate Show. I'm Michael Bull. Today we're talking about retail real estate and retailers. We have Jesse Tron on Skype with us from ICSC. And Jesse, before the break, we were talking about how well some of these retailers and some of the products did, and it wasn't rosy everywhere. So what were some of the retailers and some of the products that maybe didn't do so well?
Sure. I think electronics were a bit off. We were a bit surprised by the fact that in what we were looking at, the smartphone category didn't really do as well as we were anticipating. I think wearables and some of the other electronics, the TVs and actually tablets and things like that did pretty well, or a little bit better. But electronics was a bit off, and I think another category was seasonal apparel. And that was really weather induced. We saw an absolutely unseasonably warm weather pattern throughout much of the holiday shopping period, and it really just did not entice consumers to go out there and buy that winter gear. You saw a little bit of it because it is still in that gift category, but that was really the only things that people were buying, whereas gifts. People weren't buying those coats, those scarves, those hats and sweaters for themselves at the same clip as they normally do, and it was really because of that warm weather pattern that we saw in November and December. I mean, it was almost 70 degrees on Christmas Day in New York City. That's kind of unheard of.
Yeah, that is crazy. You think you're going to be there shopping and it's going to be snowing, right? That you're going to be in the spirits.
I mean, that weather helped other categories because it put people out there and got them out there shopping and made them able to go out and shop, so it was a very accessible weather pattern, but it didn't do much for that seasonal apparel. That was definitely adversely impacted by that warm weather.
Right. And as you can't talk about retail and retail real estate without talking about online sales. It's really growing, and a lot of the retailers have figured that out, that they're doing a mix of online, omni-channel marketing. So how did online sales do this holiday season?
Well, I think online sales did pretty well, we saw, and that's no surprise. I mean, I think one of the things that you have to remember, though, which gets sort of underreported here, is that they're in the nascent stages, really compared to brick and mortar sales. So and they're a much smaller base. Remember, it's still about 7% of total retail sales occur online. So we're talking about a pretty small section of the industry. So when you calculate off that small base, you get these really fantastic percent gain numbers. The underlying actual dollar figure, maybe not as much as people would think by what's reported on those percent gains, but they still did pretty well. But I think what really you saw happening is this idea of convergence out there this holiday season, and one where it really is no longer a story of bricks versus clicks and competing and things like that for retailers. They are now trying to, as you alluded to, that omni-channel, that buzzword is out there in the industry, but they're really trying to make it a bricks and click strategy and marry the two, because we really are seeing a fundamental shift in how the consumer shops, and they're really using both. And actually what they're doing quite a bit of is they're using those digital channels to heavily inform how they go to the store and make their actual purchase. So the smart retailers are understanding that, and they're finding the right mix and the strategy, and knowing that, yep, they're going to gain some share of sales online, but they're also, through better digital channels, going to drive more traffic and more purchases in store. You know, for instance, 32%, so nearly a third of consumers this holiday season, said they participated in click and collect shopping. That, I think, is really something that you're going to see continue to grow. And some retailers were prepared for it. Not all of them were fully prepared for really the influx that we saw in that click and collect shopping method. And that's, of course, where you buy online and go pick up in the store. And why is that great for retailers? 76% of those people said they bought something else once they went to pick up their original purchase. So that's a great way to gain incremental sales. You know, the thing about online is its ease and convenience, but you don't get any of those incremental sales, those upsell kind of moments. It's a very one-to-one kind of sales scenario. So driving people to come into your store, either to pick up or return exchange, all those things is really a boon to retailers. So I think that's what you're really seeing from the digital side is just how much digital is enhancing and influencing the total sales picture and the in-store sales picture.
Yeah, that's a good point, and it's a great way to pick up those late shoppers, right? That they want to do it online, but if it's too late in the season, they figure, well, I'm not going to get delivery, so they can go online and buy it, go to the store. Love your point there too, that where you're there, you're probably going to buy something else. So, what are some other quick tips, Jesse, for retailers to improve their performance, or improve the way I talk, or improve performance?
Yeah, I think that's the big one, right? We talked about the major elephant in the room is perfecting the omni-channel process, and I think we still have a ways to go, and I think retailers are going to continue to really weigh in and do that, and you're seeing it across the board, for instance, with retailers that started out as online-only retailers opening up stores so they can get more of a piece of this omni-channel world, and retailers that started as traditional brick and mortar are figuring out ways to enhance their digital plays to drive people back to their stores. So I think that's really going to be a continued area of focus within the industry, because we are seeing a shift in consumer habits, and where they're really influenced by this digital channel and then go buy actually in physical stores. The other thing that I think...
Good point, and we're going to take a short break. When we get back, we're going to ask Jesse about tenants that are hot, who's expanding, who's closing. You will find out next. I'm Michael Bull. This is the Commercial Real Estate Show. Stay with us. We have a lot more headed your way. Xceligent, the resource professionals like CCIMs, CBRE, JLL, Colliers, and Bull Realty use for market intelligence. Commercial Search is the site to market and find available properties to buy, sell, or lease all over the country. Visit commercialsearch.com. Welcome back. I'm Michael Bull, and this is the Commercial Real Estate Show. We're talking about retail and retail real estate. We have Jesse Tron with us on Skype, and Jesse, there's been some trouble with closings. I guess that's just normal as the market change, like we were just talking about. A lot of retailers are doing more online sales and employing there and closing some stores. You know, Macy's is planning to close 36 stores, JCPenney 7. We're hearing Walmart's going to close 269 stores, Gap 175. What's going on? What do you see there?
Sure, yeah, and I think the important thing to note is that I don't think this is necessarily a direct correlation with online. I mean, as we talked about, I don't see. What I do see is that, as you brought up, this is par for the course during the first quarter of the year. This is when people prune their store count. If they didn't have quite the success that they were looking for in the previous year, this is when they close stores. So you talk about certain retailers. That doesn't mean that those retailers are in huge trouble, but it definitely signifies that they didn't get done what they wanted to in the previous year. But remember, about 50% of closures happen in the first quarter. So this is the time that it is normal to see this. If we were seeing this in the third and fourth quarter, this large of a store closing count, then you would have some worry. But this is this is nothing to worry about, at the moment, because this is when people prune their store count. And what that means is that, yes, while it's a challenge to go and fill those spaces, it's also a huge opportunity to get in some other retailers that maybe you wanted to have that are going to really enhance your tenant mix. And we are seeing that there are retailers that are going to be out there expanding. The fast fashion category is still booming. As you saw, I mean, we talked a little bit about apparel being in a bit of a concern, but there is some deflation there from a price standpoint. And so fast fashion is doing very well, selling at the lower price point, and I think they're expanding. So the H&Ms, the Zaras, the Uniqlos, the Topshops, and now the Primarks actually entering the fray. They're going to be snapping up space, and they take large amounts of space typically as well. And somebody like Primark, look at them as an example, they actually don't even sell online. So their whole methodology is to gain market share through increased store count. So I think I'd look for them to potentially be a player in snapping up some of this space. And then there are other types of tenants that are going to come in and take a share of that space. So it's definitely a challenge, but like I said, it's also an opportunity, and it is not the warning bells that I think we want to make out at this time of year. Again, if I was seeing this in the third and fourth quarter,
shaking
I'd be
in your boots,
significantly more concerned.
Right. So who are some of the other retailers and retail types that are expanding now?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about that fast fashion category. I think you're actually seeing some expansion in some of the non-traditional categories as well. When you talk about shopping centers, you're seeing an increase in healthcare tenants, in those shopping centers. You're seeing increases in the food categories, in the dining and the entertainment categories, and as well as things like health clubs, gyms, fitness centers. All those kinds of things are actually taking significant amounts of space, which is really interesting. It's not something we would have seen 15 or so years ago, that all of these different types of tenants in one mix and actually working incredibly well together from a shopping center standpoint or a mall standpoint. So I think it's really kind of exciting times in terms of just how eclectic some of these tenant mixes are.
Yeah, good point. And there's a lot of good things going on while there's some closures. Well, Jesse, thanks for joining us. We look forward to seeing you at Recon out in Vegas in the spring.
It's creeping up on us fast.
Yeah.
I look forward to seeing you out there for sure.
That's great. And if you're in retail or retail real estate, make sure you do get to the ICSC Recon event in Vegas. It is incredible. If you're in retail real estate, you have to be there. It's just amazing. Well, be sure to join us next week. We're going to talk about the multi-family market. So until next week, be sure that you always lead, learn, and laugh, and join us for the Commercial Real Estate Show.